My only question, and look, Trey, you and I, like you said, we both have played NCAA 14 with that relegation model. It's a lot of fun. The thing that makes me wonder if it would work or even if it should be pursued at the college level is ultimately, like, these institutions aren't set up for their sole goal to be to win championships. Right now,
Right.
some schools that is what they do. Right. I mean, that's how they make their money. But at the end of the day, like, the schools are supposed to be academic based in nature, right? Like, athletics is still under some pretext as being not the primary reason you go to school. Shout out Cardell Jones. We ain't playing no school. I hear that. I get that. I know how the world works. But I do wonder if, from a perception standpoint, if that's enough of a difference where, over in, like I said, F1, or, the Champions League, the European soccer carousel, all of that is for profit, for championships, solely focused on winning. Anything less than that is not permissible. You're going to have staff changes, you're going to have people fired, etc. Does that work? What kind of world are we creating, whether it's here or not? And I realize it's really that way already, but is that kind of like the last shoe to drop between true amateurism and college leagues and college sports really just becoming, a pipe feeder for major league sports, really its own division of major league sports?
I think you just described the SEC when you were describing Formula One and, European soccer, and it just being about championships, and you get shown the door if you don't get results almost immediate. That's the SEC right now, man. Like that's what the Big Ten is shifting towards with the moves that they're making.
Yeah.
I mean, love it or hate it, that is the direction that we are moving.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really interesting, the divide between the schools that really do still put academics first, right? I'm thinking of the Dukes, the Stanfords, the Virginia is part of this group of 7, but they are a very prestigious academic school.
Right.
We could go down to the G5 level and look at the Rices, the Tulanes of the world, right? The very prestigious academic schools
Sure.
that do not lower their admission standards even for athletics. How in the world do they keep up in a world like this? They're already struggling as it is, but that it's just impossible. So it's almost like the Dukes of the world really are up against the 8 ball. And I know that we love the coaching situation. We love what Duke's doing right now, but long term, it's going to be an extremely uphill battle in a situation like that.
And that's a fair point. That's a totally fair point. I think it's what makes the continued evolution of college sports and the business of sport at the NCAA level so fascinating, that you're seeing so much money get poured into this. Livelihoods and careers are made at this level, right? It's not just a incubator for the next round of professional athletes. And, oh, by the way, like, you can get a degree while you're here too. The focus truly has shifted to come here, win championships, make a legacy, and go get paid. Who needs that piece of paper with, a degree on it, if you're going to make all this money and do it right? And Trey, like you said, if you don't come here and don't play school, you do it poorly, then you get shown the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Especially with
it's
the transfer portal and all that as well now. Like it's
well,
very
exactly.
easy. Yeah.
Exactly. We were having a conversation last night about not a football team, but another college sports team that, the analysts around the program are being quite honest that, hey, this team has underperformed. Everybody is going to be shown the door pretty much. It's going to be invitation only to next year's team, and the transfer portal is going to be how they rebuild. So,
So
like it or
what
not, that's
big
that's where we are.
big picture, how does that affect you guys' excitement for college football? Because, there's a reason we're a college football podcast and not an NFL podcast,
Yeah.
right? Like we do love what makes college football unique, and we still are going to have a ton of that. I think the 12 team playoff is definitely going to preserve the shot that some of these, next lower tier programs are going to have to actually compete for national, the TCUs of the world, right? I know they made it in a 4-team playoff, but you know, how does that affect y'all's long-term excitement or outlook for the sport?
I think for me, it's going to be about the same. I don't think it's going to affect it in a negative way just because, when I look at this, I say people are already good if they invest in their program, right? Very rarely and in very, very few instances does a team really invest in its program. It spends the money that it needs to build good facilities and get a good coaching staff and the recruiting efforts and whatever else. Very rarely do those types of teams not field competitive teams that can win a lot of games and go to bowl games and compete for conferences. I'm not saying you can buy a championship. That's not what I'm saying, because clearly not. But if you can go and invest in a good coach and stick around for a little while, put your money in your facilities, that's a decision that as a university you're deciding to use that money for that instead of building a new science center or whatever else. But I mean, that's choices, right?
In some places, a lot of
yeah, in some cases, it's earmarked for other stuff. But what I'm saying is, as a university, you can make choices to focus on, to emphasize whatever you want to, and some universities focus on emphasizing on sports because they know they're not going to compete academically. So they say, I want to focus more on sports, and if our education levels are a little bit lower, that's fine with me. And those are the teams that are already good anyways, right? Now that you're going to have some anomalies out of nowhere. Obviously you had Stanford being extremely competitive for a few years there, and they're competitive on occasion, and you have some teams that crop up every now and then and have a really good season. But as a whole, it's going to be a lot of those teams from the middle of the country, the SEC and the Big Ten, who they know they're not at the same level academically as some of the other schools, but they're going to compete when it comes to football and basketball and baseball and whatever else. And so for me, that's the only thing I look at is I say those teams are already doing that. I don't think it's going to change a whole lot. You're just going to formalize a lot of what's been informal.
Hey, you leave my liberal arts budget out of this, right? Support lib arts majors. That's all I have to say about
you have to.
Keeping church and state separate there. Just one clarification, just so Stanford fans don't get mad at us, because I know a couple people that graduated from there. Y'all crush in like men's water polo. And,
get their top 3 in the Directors Cup every single year.
Every year. It's basically
a college football podcast, though.
It's basically Stanford and Texas that compete for the Directors Cup at the D1 level every single year. Y'all crush in everything but the sports that people want to watch. That's as nice as I know how to put it. So
that's the most backhanded compliment I've ever heard.
I was going to say,
turning out Olympian. We care about those sports every 4 years, Mitch. It's called the Olympics, and we get really excited to root for everything Stanford's good at. They just have to be wearing red, white, and blue.
That's true. Fly old glory, and suddenly we care about Stanford athletics and the progress they've made the last 4 years.
Gracious him! How about